Welcome back. Well, there are many people that help to make the wheels or the cogs of the wheels of the finance within the country and the region keep working. We've been talking about finance, and what better way to kind of segue into it than to meet the president of the Caribbean Development Bank. We're speaking with Dr. William Warren Smith. Of course, he's the 5th president of the Caribbean Development Bank and has been in this position, holding this office, since 2011. Good morning and welcome to Mornin Barbados.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Exactly what is the president's role within the Caribbean Development Bank?
Well, my role is really one of leadership, guidance, helping to coordinate the visioning for the institution to ensure that that vision coincides with the requirements, needs of the region. That in a nutshell is what I do.
Okay. I want to talk a little about leading up to this. You've been working in management areas for a number of years. You worked with Liat, Caribbean Airline. You've worked in Jamaica with insurance as well as economics. That's a major part of what you do. Let's talk about how that prepared you for what you have to do in your role with the Caribbean Development Bank.
Well, I guess to some degree it was a bit fortuitous, but many of the assignments that I've had in my life have been pretty challenging. Liat would perhaps have been top of the list. Challenging but rewarding. I also had the experience of living through a major financial sector crisis in Jamaica just prior to coming to CDB in 1998. And then in my first year as president of the CDB, here I find myself in the midst of one of the most difficult periods in Caribbean economic history. So I suppose, as I said, fortuitously, over the years, I've found myself in a position where I've been kind of honed to deal with tough situations.
Well, it seems like, I don't want to say a partner in crime, but your life partner, your wife, is a medical doctor, and you both have them very busy schedules. So what has been the formula for, this is the love month, so we can't help but ask a little about that. What has been the formula in keeping the balance in the business and certainly that relationship?
Well, it's always tough. I think that, we frequently talk about the fact that we don't have a lot of time together. Fortunately, the kids are all grown and pretty much gone. But I think that it's very important to try to maintain that balance between your professional life and your personal life. I keep telling her, that's my wife, Anne-Marie, that she's the real problem. I am entitled to 4 weeks a year. She doesn't allocate that much for herself, but
she's always on call as well.
Yes, she is. But we still try to ensure that at some point in time we do get the opportunity to spend some quality time together.
Excellent.
Quality is very important. Now, there are many of us that keep hearing about the Caribbean Development Bank and don't quite understand what is its role. It's been in existence since 1970. What exactly is the Caribbean Development Bank's role to all of the countries within the region?
Well, I think it would be helpful, since there's a lot of discussion these days about the IMF, the role of the IMF. Perhaps we could differentiate the role of the CDB from the role of the IMF. The IMF is primarily focused on short-term adjustment. In other words, a country gets into balance of payments problems, doesn't have enough foreign exchange, its fiscal position deteriorates, and that threatens a number of things. And the IMF's principal role is to step in when that country needs assistance with that relatively short-term adjustment. Whilst we cannot be indifferent to that process because it impacts the work that we do, so that we provide advice in that area also, our principal focus is on the medium to long term, which is why the loans that we provide typically extend between 20 and 30 years, depending on the country and the project. So that our role is more of an economic transformational role. We want to change the structure of the economy over time so that our countries become more resilient, are better able to resist and stand up to the vulnerability that's so inherent in our existence here in the Caribbean. So that's the focus of the Caribbean Development Bank. So our project lending is focused on things like infrastructure, but also we're very, very active in the social area. This year, we're very excited about a new area which we're going to be embarking upon. We call it citizen security. That is, we're going to be trying to focus on the youth at risk to ensure that these youngsters do not transition into crime and criminality.
Right.
So that's a new dimension to our activity in the Caribbean.
I wanted to ask you a little about, maybe you can explain the difference. You have borrowing member countries as well as non-borrowing. Maybe you can really explain the relationship across the board.
Okay, that's a good question. The CDB is really a coalition of countries, all coming together for the common purpose of the economic and social development of the Caribbean. Now, the borrowing members, the title sort of gives it away. They're the ones who tend to be the beneficiaries of the financing, whether it be grant financing or loan financing. The 18 borrowing members are Caribbean countries. Now, we also have members which we call regional non-borrowing. These would be the 3 Latin countries, Venezuela, Mexico, and Colombia. They have been members of the bank from pretty much the early 70s also. Then we have the non-borrowing, non-regionals, and these are comprised of Canada, the UK, Germany, Italy, China. Those are pretty much the non-regional, non-borrowing. So what that means is that they provide resources to the bank, but they don't actually benefit directly from those resources. They benefit to the extent that when our countries procure services and goods through the funds that we provide, they have the opportunity to bid on those contracts.
Okay. You established a fund in 1970, the CDB, the Special Development Fund. Yes. So maybe you can elaborate a bit on that one.
Yes, the CDB operates several different funds, but we have a group of funds called the Special Fund Resources, of which the Special Development Fund, unified as we call it, is the principal fund that is focused on poverty, highly poverty-focused projects, let me put it that way, so that there's within the ambit of the Special Development Fund is a program which we talk about a lot because we're very proud of it. Yeah. It's called the Basic Needs Trust Fund. The Basic Needs Trust Fund is geared towards the development of poor communities, whether they be urban or rural, and these are entirely grant resources. There's no requirement for repayment to CDB. But what we do is we ensure that there is significant community participation in the design and implementation of these projects. So it gets very, very close to the people, and the people get very close to CDB.
Now, I understand that you're also gearing up for the 43rd annual CDB meeting. Exactly what is this meeting going to be aiming at focusing on, especially during these times?
Well, the meeting comes at a very critical time for CDB. We have had challenges both in the institution and in our borrowing members as a consequence of the times that we find ourselves in. The world economy and the countries to which many of our countries are tied by trade relationships are having a difficult passage themselves. So that we need to have a discussion between our shareholders and ourselves around how we need to partner better to ensure that we as an institution not only can remain relevant, but also financially strong. The rating agencies have shifted the goalpost. So we're in a different paradigm.
Yeah.
And what that paradigm means is that it's not just CDB who has to get it right. but the borrowing member countries also need to get it right, and the other shareholders in combination. So that's going to be a principal item of discussion in St. Lucia this year.
Speaking of the Caribbean Development Bank as a body throughout the region, what is its role, if any, in terms of creating linkages to its lending power and its borrowing powers to that of the Caribbean single market and economy?
Well, as far as the entire CARICOM arrangement is concerned, there are different institutions in CARICOM, of which CDB is one. Our role is that of galvanizing economic development, as I indicated earlier, so that we provide the resources that would represent the underpinning for a single market. In other words, we are not actively involved in the creation of the single market. We will provide funding for the creation of institutions that support the single market, such as the Caribbean Court of Justice, which CDB financed to the tune of $100 million US. The infrastructure that we finance and the other types of economic development projects all represent the basis around which a single market can be developed.
Excellent. Well, there are buzz phrases when it comes to the CDB, things like contributing to the harmonious economic growth of development of member countries in the region, as well as promoting economic cooperation and integration for these countries as well. With that in mind, apart from the meeting of the Board of Governors to be held this year and the focus of that meeting, what is your most important job or task at hand that you would like to, put your stamp on? Because you did say as well you are a Caribbean man, and this puts you in the perfect position to continue to be just that.
Well, my objective is, hopefully at the end of my stint here as president of the CDB, to see a Caribbean that is less vulnerable to the various hazards that we face, both economic and climate.
Yes.
That is what I would like my performance to be measured against. The degree to which we have put things in place that when we reflect backwards, that we will see that our countries are less indebted, that our countries have better fiscal positions, that our countries are not continuously using their scarce resources to replace infrastructure they built yesterday to put in new infrastructure as a result of hurricane and other natural hazard damage.
Excellent. Well, we know that you've been there since 2011, but we still want to officially say welcome, and we hope that you can reach that mandate you've given to yourself and continue to fulfill the role of the CDB, and we hope that it continues from strength to strength.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I'm a little curious, one quick question before we go. I was actually kind of itching about it. You hold a master's in agricultural economics?
Yes, I do.
Exactly. What is agricultural economics?
Well, I think the title again gives it away. You study all the basic courses in economics, but the focus of the program is on the agricultural sector. My focus was on agricultural marketing and food distribution, and it had a lot to do with my own origins, my family having been both in agriculture at the production level and also at the marketing and distribution level. So I had an inherent interest in that, and in retrospect I'm very happy that I did it, because it gives me a much greater understanding and appreciation of some of the challenges that our countries face in trying to get their agricultural act together.
And by extension, reducing some of the food import bills that we have as well.
Exactly.
Thank you so very much. Of course, Dr. Warren Smith is the 5th Caribbean Development Bank President, and of course we had the pleasure and the privilege.
Yes, and don't forget to send Dr. Anne Marie her her flowers and chocolate. Okay?
Yeah.
Good.
I have that organized.
Lovely. A planner.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure.
And ours as well.
But this is rough. It's early in the morning.
But we are happy that you are just as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as we are. We'll continue in a moment on Morning Barbados.